With the level of intolerable hardship imposed on Sub-Saharan Africa, one is forced to ask the question, how long will Sub-Saharan Africa hold on before it is exterminated? Look at the insecurity, the bloodbath, the terrorism, violence, poverty, and ethno-religious wars going on in this region, from Western Sahara to Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, Niger, Central African Republic, Nigeria, Somalia, right down to Mozambique. In all these countries, it is the same story, same pattern, and same outcome. So, what is the outcome? The outcome is destruction and death. Welcome to another edition of Security Africa. Today we are introducing a new program called The Extermination of Sub-Saharan Africa. Within the context of our discussion, there are two parts of Africa. The first part are countries called the Middle East and North Africa, MENA for short. They are located above the Tropic of Cancer. If you look at your map of Africa, you will see the Tropic of Cancer. Countries located above this Tropic of Cancer are known as the MENA. The second part is the Sub-Saharan Africa. All the African countries below the Tropic of Cancer up to the Tropic of Capricorn are known as the Sub-Saharan Africa within the context of our discussion. So, you have known the area we are talking about. So, let's move on. So, why talk about extermination? Extermination in what sense? Why Sub-Saharan Africa in the first place? As always, many developed nations have been blaming Sub-Saharan Africa for all the ills in the world, be it global warming, greenhouse gas emission, carbon dioxide pollution, overpopulation, disease, abject poverty, terrorism, human trafficking, internet fraud, name it. The list goes on and on. The continued existence of Sub-Saharan African nations and people is becoming an irritation to developed nations. Sub-Saharan Africa has always been targeted historically anyway. Remember how the Arabs and Europeans came down to Sub-Saharan Africa, bought and sold them as slaves. In the yesteryears, it was about slaves and colonization. But today, it is about systematic extermination of the population, land grabbing, and natural resources confiscation in Sub-Saharan Africa. These gruesome and savage silent wars are concentrated in Sub-Saharan African nations that have natural resources. According to the latest United Nations report, in Nigeria alone, over 324,000 children have been killed in the northern eastern part of that country. The shocking thing is that the whole world looks on without uttering a word. We know how many people that died in Yugoslavia that made NATO to intervene. We know how many people that died in Libya and Syria that made NATO to unleash their proxy forces on Libya and Syria based on humanitarian grounds. We also know how many people that died in the United States of America that prompted the Black Lives Matter movement. The extermination and death tolls in these undeclared and unreported killings in Sub-Saharan Africa have by far surpassed what happened in Yugoslavia, Libya, Syria, or the United States of America. This conspiracy of silence is not a mistake. The deluge of armed killers roaming freely, killing, raping, and kidnapping across Sub-Saharan Africa is not a mistake at all. The eviction of indigenous people from their ancestral land is not a mistake. Why should the whole world conspire against Sub-Saharan Africa? The question is, how is the extermination of Sub-Saharan Africa designed? Coming up next.
Sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. Okay? And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow Sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. We cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufacturers. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that.
Did you hear that? You Sub-Saharan African presidents, prime ministers and foreign ministers, economists, religious leaders and the media, did you hear that those things you have been told to do, to implement in your respective nations or preach to your people are all designed to impoverish your nation and subjugate your people? You brilliant African economists, politicians, clergies, human rights activists, and pro-democracy fanatics, hear it today. Whatever the West have taught you about how Africa will prosper are deliberately designed to keep Africans impoverished. The whole intrigue will be made manifest as we break down this clip for better understanding, starting with this.
Sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries.
Did you hear that? This is a statement of fact. The prosperities seen in the developed nations today were made possible by the blood and sweat of Sub-Saharan African slaves. They built the cities and economies of advanced nations. For instance, in Britain, it is a well-known fact that the city of Manchester was built with the profit from slave trade. It is also a known fact that the nation of Belgium was built by the process of gold, rubber and timber from forced labor in Congo. This is also applicable to Spain, Portugal, or Germany. Today, most of the industries in advanced nations, including China, cannot function without the raw materials from Africa. For instance, the coltan for the manufacture of mobile phones and computers comes from Africa. So, without Africa, without coltan, Silicon Valley will not function properly. Again, the uranium that guarantees 24 hours power in advanced countries is from Africa. Without Africa, advanced nations wouldn't have had enough power to run their cities and their economy. So, it is a well-known fact that Sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of advanced countries. But this contribution comes with a cost against Africa.
Sub-Saharan Africa, which is the poorest part of the world, is paying $25,000 every minute to northern creditors. Well, you could build a lot of schools, a lot of hospitals, you could make a lot of job creation if you were using $25,000 a minute differently.
Did you hear that? This is one of the ways in which Sub-Saharan Africa contributes to the prosperity of advanced countries. Can you imagine, can you believe that in the 90s, Sub-Saharan African services its debt at the rate of $25,000 every minute to advanced countries? Now you do the calculation. Now you understand how Sub-Saharan Africa contributes to the prosperity and wealth of these advanced nations. For the prosperity of advanced nations to be guaranteed, this debt servicing must continue.
We will do everything to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It is absolutely vital to the prosperity of everyone else, so let's be clear about that.
Did you hear that? The advanced nations have sworn to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is today. The question is, where is Sub-Saharan Africa kept by these advanced countries? They have kept them in a place of hunger, war, bloodshed, refugee crisis, debt crisis, political instability, insecurity, youth unemployment, terrorism and banditry. The list goes on and on. In addition to keeping Sub-Saharan Africa in this condition, they also vowed to keep it impoverished. This is where the extermination kicks in. What are the synonyms for impoverished? They include poverty, pennilessness, underprivileged, broke or disadvantaged. This is the condition the West have vowed to keep Sub-Saharan Africa. Keep them poor, penniless, underprivileged, broke or disadvantaged. When human beings are kept under these conditions, this is gradual extermination. This is because feeding, health, education, and decent standard of living will not be affordable. Today, I hope leaders and youths in Sub-Saharan Africa understand their place in global affairs.
And this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions and all the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same.
Did you hear that? That the economic structures, the global institutions, and all the economics Africans we are taught were all lies. They were all designed to keep Africa impoverished. So the World Bank, the IMF, the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, the Paris Accord, the structural adjustment programs of the 90s, the free market economies, and the dividend of democracy are all falsehood. So these institutions and international agreements are deliberately designed to impoverish Sub-Saharan African nations and keep the people subjugated in perpetuity. It will be interesting to see the faces of these African intellectuals that have been helping the West to spread these toxic policies across Sub-Saharan Africa. You also heard that whether it is Europe, United States of America, or China, it's all the same. Some Africans think that the Chinese are better than the West. But hear it today. Whether the West, the Chinese, or the Gulf states, they're all working together to impoverish Sub-Saharan Africa.
Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. We cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufactures. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that.
If Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe, North America and Asia is going to fall. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. We cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and to start producing manufactures.
Did you hear that? The West will not allow Africa to escape. Neither would they allow them to industrialize. What kind of cruelty is that? Apart from impoverishing Sub-Saharan Africa, they will not allow them to industrialize. And if in Africa dares to change this situation, the West will fight back and push them back to where they kept them. From this grand design, you can see that Sub-Saharan Africa cannot industrialize, cannot have the iron and steel factories, the petrochemical factories, the refineries, the 24 hours power supply, good infrastructure, quality education, good healthcare facilities, and youth employment. This means death sentence. This is gradual extermination. For you Sub-Saharan African youths, you can see what your future holds for you. Yet, same people that are subjugating you have given you guns to kill each other and make your respective countries ungovernable. Those who bought the guns and gave you know very well that prosperity does not flow from the barrel of the gun. African youths of yesteryears fought for the liberation of their people. You are expected to continue from where they stopped. These are people like Amilcar Cabral, Kwame Nkrumah, Kenneth Kaunda, Nelson Mandela, just to mention a few. They understood the sufferings of their people and knew that they were subjugated and fought for the liberation of their people. We expect that you continue from where they stopped. Today, you African youths are killing your own people and making your respective countries ungovernable. As you press the trigger of your gun, you are killing the prosperity, the peace and development of the African continent. For you Sub-Saharan African leaders, is this the future you are bequeathing to your children? Yes, we always blame the West, but they wouldn't have succeeded without the help of Africans. So, why are Africans conniving with those impoverishing them? You want to know? Then stay tuned on this channel as we roll out the extermination of Sub-Saharan Africa. Make sure you subscribe and share this with others so that they will become aware of what is happening in Africa and they will come together to solve this problem. Please drop your comments in the comment section below. And thank you for watching.